It's 3:36. I'm Anne Marie Tiernan along with Gary Woodruff with the Lawrence Police Department, the deputy chief there. And we're back with you now as we honor the life of fallen Indiana State Police Trooper Aaron Smith. A final tribute is now getting underway at Crown Hill Cemetery, where he will be laid to rest in the Heroes of Public Safety section. The 33-year-old was killed in the line of duty last week. And this morning, there were hundreds, almost 2,000 people who packed the Emmanuel Church in Greenwood for Trooper Smith funeral. And while we were there, Superintendent of State Police Doug Carter gave a very emotional speech, and we're going to bring you some of that sound, and then we'll take you to the cemetery
Indiana
as the
State
casket
Trooper
arrives.
Aaron N. Smith, age 33, of Franklin, Indiana, passed away Wednesday, June 28th, 2023 in Plainfield, Indiana, following a life of dedication and service to his friends, his family, his community, his state.
So we're looking at some images now live outside of Crown Hill Cemetery as about 500 vehicles, all representing law enforcement and also the family of Trooper Aaron Smith. And there you can see his hearse going in the gates there. This is the view from above, and you can see the line of people there to receive him. As he comes in there, he is going to be laid to rest in the Heroes of Public Safety section at Crown Hill Cemetery. This will be a funeral at the gravesite, a service rather, I should say, at the gravesite in honor of his community service as a state trooper and also for his military experience as well. Very emotional, and there will be filled with rituals with purpose for fallen officers that are steeped in tradition. And Gary, we've been talking about what little tweaks we might see different. You were talking about how many times the law enforcement borrows from the military for some of these ceremonies, and what will be similar and what will be distinct to honor this 5-year state trooper and 12-year member of the Indiana National Guard.
Right, there are many parallels that occur between a military funeral and a paramilitary funeral or a law enforcement funeral. So it will be interesting to see the distinction between those. There will be some, a great many parallels, but there will also be some distinctive differences in what the military does and what the law enforcement side do. And he's earned, and that was spoken about in, during the service, he's earned the right to both of those.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting to listen. I certainly felt strongly, I wish I had known Trooper Aaron Smith after I heard about this life that this 33-year-old who died last Wednesday, the life that he lived, and some of the words of that his co-workers and his family and his pastor used to describe him. His Uncle Tony called him humble, a servant who went out and helped serve and help people pick up after the tornadoes in Whiteland, and also a hero, someone who helped intervene in his role as a trooper and save the lives of 2 people.
Yeah, to be in that room yesterday where where Megan, his surviving spouse, was able to meet that individual. And what just a heartfelt moment of emotion that was shared between them, and it's just exemplary of our profession in general, but in particular of Trooper Smith. What an extraordinary young man. He lived a lot of life, packed a lot of life into his years. Yeah,
so we're talking about Jewel Green, and that's a story that we've brought here to you here on Channel 13 about this lady who was involved in an incident. He stayed with her, said that he was not going to let her go, and she went to the hospital. She even told the story about how he came to the hospital the next day, that he shared his number, and she really felt like, you hear about heroes, but to really have met one and to see how he moved and how that moved in her life, and now she's able to be with her son.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, it's an extraordinary exemplary of Trooper Smith's life well lived, life of service.
Yes.
And everyone from the governor to the superintendent to friends recognized that life of service.
Right. So he was a strong Christian. He was a member of the Emmanuel Church on the Greenwood campus, and he and his wife Megan, as we monitor the developments here at Crown Hill, worked in the children's ministry there, and we heard from the pastor talking about the life of service that he had and his selfless nature. And we also heard from the superintendent, an interesting story from the superintendent about There was a time when the trooper stepped away and said, I think I'm going to go for different hours. I'm going to work in the family business. And the superintendent supported him in that in October of 2021. And 4 months later, he came back. He says, no, I got to serve. I miss it. Please, I want to be a trooper again. But then what comes next now for Trooper Smith? Well, his wife Megan and the superintendent have some pretty strong feelings about his faith, about his destiny, and where he is now. And they addressed that earlier today. Let's roll you a little bit of that snippet of that tribute to him from the Superintendent Carter.
Megan even made the comment that she knows where Aaron is. She does not even think he would want to come back. She does not think he would want to come back because he is now in the presence of God. I don't know about you, but I cannot imagine my faith being that strong. I wish I could. Especially at that time and under those circumstances.
We also today heard from Governor Eric Holcomb, who gave an expression of condolence at that cemetery that was at 11 o'clock this morning and ran for about an hour and 50 minutes. And he made the point that he lived an extraordinary life, and then he went on and said there was nothing ordinary about Trooper Smith. His love for the community, his love for the Lord, that he lived out Scripture. And then he said the line that caught both of our attention, that truly this 33-year-old, his life was like a movie.
Yeah. His life, literally, he lived his life. It was like a movie, and again, Governor Holcomb, as usual, just captured that emotion perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Emily Longnecker is at Crown Hill, and she's monitoring the proceedings as they are there. Emily, what can you see from your vantage point, and kind of walk us through what's happening and what comes next?
Well, hi, Ann and Gary. Yeah. You can see behind me, we're across from the Heroes of Public Safety section where Trooper Aaron Smith will be laid to rest. And you can see that law enforcement is starting to arrive and take their places. And as we've talked about before, they're all wearing that white carnation behind their badge, the white carnation symbolizing a life well lived, the red dot in the middle, symbolizing the blood shed, the sacrifice shed by Trooper Smith. You know, he served his state and his country, and we're going to see a reflection of that in the ceremony here today at the Heroes of Public Safety section. I'm told that 3 Indiana National Guardsmen will be pallbearers, and then 3 Indiana State Troopers will be pallbearers accompanying the caisson as it comes up this way. I'm also told that 2 Indiana National Guardsmen will be on horses next to that caisson as it arrives here. There'll be a multi-jurisdictional color team, and then an Indiana National Guardsman behind that color team carrying a flag of the United States Army. Now, the caisson is going to come last. The officers, you can see them arriving now. And the idea is for these officers and these guardsmen to lead their fellow brother to his last resting place. I'm also told that Governor Eric Holcomb and the Indiana Adjunct General will also be here graveside for this committal service. Trooper Smith has not been left alone at all since he passed last week. There has been an Indiana State Trooper guarding his flag-draped casket ever since. When taps is played here, we're going to hear taps played, and when that is played, there will be a National Guardsman on a bugle, and there will be an Indiana State Trooper on another one, and they will take turns kind of echoing back and forth. When you, at some point towards the end, you are going to see the flag over Trooper Smith's casket. You're going to see that folded. That is also going to be a joint effort by the Indiana National Guard and the Indiana State Police. And then Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter will present that flag to his wife, Megan. So this service here today is really going to reflect the service of Trooper Aaron Smith, serving his state, his community, and his country. And you're going to see that here amongst the people here for that service. Ann, Gary?
It's interesting to see, Emily, we can see troopers coming in, we see members of the military, we've seen some sheriff's deputies, IMPD officers, law enforcement from all over coming together. This isn't just a loss for Indiana State Police, is it?
No, I mean, this is a loss for the Indiana National Guard. This is a loss for community. This is a loss for Trooper Aaron Smith's family. This is a loss for people who didn't even know Trooper Smith, who will not get the chance now to meet him, meet a man who, by all accounts, from the people that I've talked to that knew him, his football coach, the former athletic director at Whiteland High School, where he went to school, telling us that it was no surprise that Aaron Smith became an Indiana State Trooper, that he was kind, that he was just, that he was fair, and that this fit him well. And I talked to his former football coach last week, Darren Fisher at Whiteland High School. He's still the coach there, and he said, last November, the weekend after Thanksgiving, Whiteland High School made the state championships to be played at Lucas Oil Stadium. And when the coach came out of the tunnel there at Lucas Oil, there was Trooper Aaron Smith to greet him. He had traded his days off so that he could be there and be the security detail for his former coach. And he told his coach, there's nowhere else that I would rather be in this moment. And the coach, was telling me that that's just an example of what a selfless guy he was. He always thought of we before me. And you heard that a lot today in the service. He's been described many times by many people as a servant leader. And today all of these folks are here to pay respects to that servant leader. Ann, Gary?
Emily, thank you so much. And turning to Gary, it's interesting because Emily brought it up there. This servant theme was very consistent, whether it was his uncle, his pastor, his boss, his shift partner, whoever it was. They were all talking about this service that he had a life of service, and that it was not if you were just on duty or in uniform, but that was truly his mindset, and that one that he shared with his wife Megan, who they described as a dynamic duo.
I could see that. Meeting her briefly yesterday, what a powerful young lady she is as well. Even in these moments of grief, she's doing extraordinarily well, all things considered. Mm-hmm. And that life of service, you'll find that a common theme within our profession. But Trooper Smith certainly took that to an ultimate extreme.
Right. We learned a little bit more about Megan today, that she's from Minnesota, and one of the speakers today said that what he shared in common with Trooper Smith was that they were both married to strong women, and I took that as a compliment for her, definitely.
Absolutely.
Also talking about his love for Whiteland. He was a warrior. He played football. He also wore the warrior uniform as a wrestler. And that seems really to be the alma mater that he really identifies with most strongly. Now, he did graduate from Indiana State University in Terre Haute. That was in 2014. And when he graduated, he had already served 3 years with the Indiana National Guard. And at his passing was a staff sergeant with the Indiana National Guard, 12 years of service with the military, and then 5 years as an Indiana State Trooper. 33 years old when he died last week, and he was born in Franklin and graduated from Whiteland Community High School in 2008. Then he went to college, joined the military. When he graduated, he became an Indiana State Trooper, but he had lots of things that he was interested in outside of his profession. With his wife, they had 2 dogs, Paisley and Oakley, who they call their fur babies, they refer to fondly. And then also this life of service, a member of Emmanuel Church, the Greenwood campus, that's where they had the visitation. Gary attended that last night. You said it was quite a wait there, just the outpouring of community support to attend that, maybe instead of or in addition to the services today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was extraordinarily well attended, and one of the things that stood out to me were the state law enforcement agencies from around the country. I don't know that I've seen that many state agencies represented of course, appropriately so with Trooper Smith being a member of the Indiana State Police. But law enforcement agencies from not just all over the country, but state law enforcement agencies in particular, really turned out well. I saw Louisiana there, Utah, New Mexico, and a great many others. Very, very impressive.
Not only showing up last night, but also today, people were arriving in Greenwood at the church, the sanctuary seating roughly 1,300, and then they had an overflow area of another 350 that were showing up there at 10 o'clock this morning. That service ran an hour and 50 minutes starting at 11, and then the long procession, a 31.5-mile procession from the church to the high school where we saw the final 1042, then past his childhood home, and then now to where we see people arriving and getting in rank and file formation there along the gravesite in the public safety, the Heroes of Public Safety section of Crown Hill Cemetery, which is just northwest of downtown. So much ceremony, so much ritual, so much respect for a service like this, Gary.
What might be interesting for the viewers to know is that all of this is planned and down to the most, the tiniest of detail, all planned, not just in reverence and respect to Trooper Smith, but at the approval of the surviving family members, in particular his spouse. They would have had all this menu of options of ceremonial things that they could choose from, and it all ultimately done to in respect and in reverence to Trooper Smith, his service, and their surviving family members.
It's 82 degrees outside right now, and it looks like most of them are going to be right there in the direct sunlight. We see little spots of shade there. What we're waiting on here is that the law enforcement funerals are a little bit different than what we typically see. Instead of the coach or the hearse with the casket being at the front of the procession and everyone lining behind, the coach is at the end of the procession. And law enforcement looks at that as a way to lead their fellow officer to their final resting place. So we saw people come in from this procession that was estimated to be about 500 cars. And then we saw that the hearse has now arrived. And so there's a lot of assembly here of parking these vehicles. And then once everyone is parked, everybody has a place, then the pallbearers will then go and remove the casket from the hearse.
Right, they'll put that onto a caisson. There will be an escort into the Heroes of Public Safety area specifically. And it will be amazing at the conclusion of all that how quiet it will become there. And Emily has spoken with that to that before when she has covered these previously, and it just, the silence is so compelling there. It is so reverent, and especially following the arrival of the casket at the interment site.
And I don't know what the arrangements have been. I guess we'll find out as the camera angles proceed here throughout the day. But sometimes at the family's request, they do not want to be put on this live feed, and so that's honored. So if you are looking for a sense of, you want to see his wife or his family and get a sense of who they are there, you may or may not see them, and if you don't, it's been at the family's request, that, and which I really can understand. If you're sitting there in what really is one of your darkest moments, the last thing you want is that to be what one option may be, that you don't want that to be broadcast in a camera capturing those moments.
Sure, that's strictly up to the family members if they are comfortable with that. If they are not, then that deference is made to those wishes. And at the end of all this, it's about what the family has asked for. He's earned, that was pointed out during the service, he's earned these recognitions.
Yes, it's very emotional. It's somber. It also seems kind of senseless when you know that he was attempting to put a stop stick out on a pursuit, and that led to an accident where an incident, I should say, where he lost his life, and that was just last Wednesday. And here we are 9 days later, how things have changed for this family, how things have changed for this community, and what a senseless loss of a 33-year-old man. I've learned a little bit about his police background and his military background, and he was very highly engaged in both. He graduated from the 78th Indiana State Police Recruit Academy, and he also served as a member of the Indiana State Police Alliance. He also served as a member of the Indiana State Police Trooper for nearly 5 years. We've talked about that, and was part of the State Police Force Crash Reconstruction Team. And as we've talked about repeatedly today, he was recently awarded 2 awards for a life-saving award. And it was interesting, if you didn't see it earlier, a member of his family said, you know, had I gotten an award like that, it would have been broadcast. I would have invited my family. We would have put it up on Facebook. We would have made sure that we had it all on video. We didn't even know about it. And Aaron, when we asked him about it, just said, oh man, I was just doing my job.
Right.
I was just doing my job. We can see that people are standing there with a sense of anticipation, maybe that something is getting closer to happen. I don't know if we can go to Emily, who is there closer to the scene, with an eye on what movement there may be in the next steps of the proceedings here. Emily?
Well, hi, Ann and Gary. You spoke to kind of the silence that kind of takes over at this moment, and it really already has. People are speaking, but a lot of them speaking in hushed tones, and it really is to the solemnity of the moment and what we're about to see. We do know that when the caisson arrives, I'm told that Trooper Smith's family will help accompany it to the stand here in front of the Heroes of Public Safety section. And sadly, we've been here many times at this section, and I've stood here many times speaking about this section. It is in one of the more historic parts of the cemetery, but the Heroes of Public Safety section is fairly new. It was dedicated, the idea for it came up right after 9/11 and then the death of Marion County Sheriff's Deputy Jason Baker, and the idea behind this memorial was to create a place to honor servants of public safety who died in the line of duty. So in that walkway leading up to those pillars that you see behind me, there are the names of public servants who have fallen in the line of duty, and then just beyond those pillars are the final resting places of many public servants in Indiana who have died in the line of duty. And they've been getting ready for some time for this service today, and the covering that will go over Trooper Aaron Smith's casket is behind those pillars, and on it there is a picture of him on the left in his in his fatigues, in his Army fatigues, as an Indiana National Guardsman. And on the right side, there's a picture of him in his Indiana State Troopers vehicle. And there's a quote from Matthew, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." So that is on top of the covering that will go on his casket. But at this point, people are here and they're waiting. Guardsmen, Indiana State Troopers, they are waiting for this part of the day to begin. Governor Eric Holcomb is also going to be here, I'm told. And it's a beautiful day, right? It's sunny. There's a nice little breeze. It is hot, but obviously there is a sadness here and a quiet as people get ready to say goodbye to this public servant, this hero that we've heard so much about in the past week, and interviewing the woman that he saved last year. She was saying that when she looked at him, she knew that she had met a hero, and she said that he kept telling her that he wasn't going to let her die. He wasn't going to let her die. And she says when she looked at him and he stayed at her side, she really believed him. And he stayed true to his word and saved her life. And, she says, my teenage son still has his mother today because of Trooper Aaron Smith. And she paid her respects last night to the family at the visitation. She isn't here today, but she wanted to tell his family, tell his widow, thank you. and hug them and let them know the lasting legacy that Trooper Smith left her with, and that lasting legacy is really her life. Ann, Gary?
Absolutely. We're now at about 6 hours of ceremonies, starting from this morning with the funeral that followed the visitation from last night. And what you're looking at here is the scene in Crown Hill Cemetery, the Heroes of Public Safety section. So much history and tradition with this area and with Crown Hill. This was founded back in 1863, and the big, beautiful trees, very diverse, representing all the different types of foliage that we have in the state of Indiana, has been planted there to represent all the people of Indiana. It is the largest cemetery in the state of Indiana, and there are more than 200,000 people that are buried there right now. And some of the notable people include President Benjamin Harrison, poet James Whitcomb Riley, Colonel Eli Lilly, 3 U.S. vice presidents, and 11 Indiana governors. As you can see, people are standing there waiting for the services to begin. If we pull out a little bit and you can see where those white structures were, that is the Heroes of Public Safety Memorial. And as Emily had mentioned, that was dedicated, I think that was in 2002, so that was about 21 years ago.
It was after 9/11, certainly.
Yes, after 9, and there's a nice wide look there. The idea really to have this section to memorialize fallen officers among the public safety personnel, not only locally, but statewide and nationally. And certainly when we have Memorial Day, when we have 4th of July, these are places where people want to go and see the people that have contributed to our society and leave a legacy in our community. This area specifically is about 1.5 acres and has about 1,500 burial spaces there. But I want to talk about that monument there. It's a granite slab with the 5 pillars there, and the words that are inscribed at the top of Heroes of Public Safety. There's a walkway around that memorial, and there in that walkway are also the names of some Indiana public safety professionals that were killed in the line of duty, and they're recognized all along the walkway as it leads up to that memorial there. So many people who have sacrificed their lives for our community or who have served our community are all together here in this one place. And you think it's almost like a hall for servants.
It is. It's a very special, very serene location there in Crown Hill, and you know, you can go out there sometimes and just kind of meditate or lose yourself in your own thoughts, and it's always very humbling to visit there. Frequently, agencies that have officers that are there, they'll visit, they'll do official visits there and official ceremonies on the anniversaries of the line of duty deaths of each of those officers. And those memorials are always very poignant, not only for the officers participating, but for their families as well, that their loved ones have not been forgotten.
Yes, and we were just talking earlier about some of the more recent funerals that we've had there that were just in the last year. Officer Sierra Burton was one of them, our officer who was from Richmond, and then also Noah Shanavez, who was in Elwood, who was killed when he was pulling somebody over and he was shot.
Yes.
And this was a different scenario, but the end result is the same: a young life dedicated to service, gone too soon.
Yeah, gone far too soon, but what a reverent way to memorialize his career, his life of public service with the Indiana State Police and the Indiana National Guard. Just an extraordinary human being, also, you know, and ultimately service even unto his own family. And
certainly was shocking news that the incident had happened. He was taken to Eskenazi Hospital, and the state superintendent talked about that scene at the hospital and the family and the community coming together and realizing the loss that had occurred, and the love and the care that Aaron's father and Aaron's mother had for the other people in the room, to make sure that they were okay, to pray for them, to include them in their thoughts. And you think, That's what parents with a heart like that raise, is someone like Aaron Smith.
Well, this is a family's darkest moment, of course, and that their thoughts went to others is certainly compelling of their character. And, you know, you can see easily in that as an example of where Trooper Smith got his character from, where he received that from.
So we have multiple crews there that are giving you these different camera angles about what the proceedings are at Crown Hill at this hour. We're just about on the schedule that we thought we'd be. It would be shortly after 4 o'clock, and we're going to stay with it so that you can participate, if you would like, in this graveside burial. We're understanding that right now they're working on the transfer of the casket to the caisson. And you can see the look from above here from drone cam 13. We're told that the people that are going to be serving as pallbearers represent the 2 professions that he had, 3 from the Indiana National Guard and 3 from the Indiana State Troopers family, and that also on the horses will be ridden by 2 members of the Indiana National Guard. We can see the flag draped casket, it looks like, there at the front of your screen as we look from above, as they make sure they got everything in position and the way they want it to be. Looks like they're putting it there on the caisson. Gary, we're nearing the end of a police escort that has been in place since Wednesday night, last Wednesday night.
Yes, his body has never been alone. He's never been alone. He's always been accompanied by officers that have been with him since this incident occurred. It's a great comfort to his family. The members that are doing this ceremony right now also, they've been working on this and practicing this countless times to the point where not only do they get it right, they can't get it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Part of the service here at Crown Hill will include some playing of the bagpipes. There will be an officer salute. There also will be a rifle salute, or the 3 volleys as it's called. All these things have been practiced and preparing for this moment.
And a lot of those traditions are borrowed from military tradition. There's long military history behind each of these ceremonial aspects to what's occurring here at the cemetery. All again earned by Trooper Smith's life of dedicated service.
And so far, everything going according to plan, that the hearse would be parked right inside the gates. The pallbearers then walk up to the coach and put their hands on the coach, and then Trooper Smith will be loaded onto the funeral caisson. He had that flag draped coffin from before, so that remained in place. And they'll be traveling from this location right inside the gates to that section that we were talking about earlier, where you can see the crowd that is gathered at the Heroes of Public Safety section. imagining what it must be like for his mother and father and 3 brothers and sister and uncle, wife, friends, waiting for him to arrive and dreading the finality of that.
Certainly dreading the finality, but wanting to make sure that the appropriate honors are delivered.
Which includes the playing of taps.
Right, right. All of the events that we'll be witnessing here, from the bagpipers to the playing of taps to the firing of the 3 volleys to the final remarks that will be made at the interment site by both military and law enforcement, and then the folding of the flag as well, and then presenting the flag to Megan.
Emily, we're looking live at the caisson from Drone Cam 13 right inside the gates of Crown Hill Cemetery, and we know that you're over outside at a respectful distance from the Heroes of Public Safety area. I'm wondering, what's the distance that this caisson will travel from inside the gates to where you are right now?
I think it's, I want to say about a quarter of a mile, maybe a little longer, and it will, you know, take its time getting up here and to arrive. It's our understanding that the family is going to greet the caisson when it gets here. They'll get out of their cars and kind of walk with it, accompany it to the stand that you see there that's waiting for the brief committal service. And when that flag is finally taken off Trooper Smith's casket and folded, it will be a joint effort from the Indiana State Police and the Indiana National Guard, really reflecting the service that he gave both to his state and to his country. And during that time, you're going to hear Amazing Grace played. Also told that members of the 1638 Transportation Company are here somewhere in the crowd that you see across the way there near the memorial. Those are folks that served with Trooper Smith in the Indiana National Guard, so they will be here. The Gordon Pipers, it's my understanding, will be providing the bagpipe music that you hear, that you will hear as pretty much as they round that corner is when you start to hear them, and you know, okay, here it's coming. And that's when really, even though it's quiet right now, if you can imagine, it gets even quieter. You can really hear a pin drop, and people wait to see Trooper Smith's casket come here and for the service to begin. Now, when it's all over, after taps is played, after the flag is presented to his wife Megan, you're going to see the pallbearers first take off their carnations that they're wearing behind their badges and put them on Trooper Smith's casket. And then after that, you will see all of these other officers, Indiana State Troopers and police officers from different agencies across the country. You will also see them come up and put their carnation on top of his casket. And again, that's part of the ceremony that goes on here. There are very specific parts that, you know, the planning that goes into this, so that all of those moments happen respectfully and in the right way to give honor to this fallen hero. So, and we are waiting. We are waiting for the caisson to arrive. It's pretty hot out here. You can see the folks that are going to do the 3 volleys. They're here with their rifles. They're waiting in the shade. They're under a tree waiting. Those are the folks that will be firing off the salute at some point. And you can see a drone shot right now, drone 13 of the caisson making its way up here to the Heroes of Public Safety section, winding its way through Crown Hill Cemetery, which is the largest cemetery here in Indiana. I think the 3rd largest non-governmental cemetery in the country. Here at the Heroes of Public Safety section, as Ann was saying, there's about 1,500 burial spaces, and this area, this memorial, this section is fairly new. It's about 21 years old, and the idea was to honor public servants who were killed in the line of duty, both at the federal level, the state level, the local level, and many of those names are over there. Many of those names we recognize, sadly, from being here before and covering services just like this one in many respects.
Yes, Emily, we're looking at the caisson making its way from the front gates at Crown Hill Cemetery, headed your way. It's 82 degrees outside right now. We've been talking about his police service, and Indiana National Guard also claims Aaron Smith as one of theirs, a staff sergeant who's been with them for 12 years, enrolled when he was at Indiana State University in Terre Haute. He did that in 2011 before he graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree 3 years later in 2014. He served with the National Guard. He achieved that rank of sergeant, and currently he was serving as a utilities equipment repairer for the 38th Infantry Division, the 38th Sustainment Brigade, the 190th Transportation Battalion, and the 1638th Transportation Company. And he earned several awards, including the Army Achievement Award, the Army Reserve Component Achievement Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Non-Commissioned Officer Development Ribbon, and the Army Service Ribbon. So he wasn't one of those people that thrived in mediocrity, was he, Gary?
No, he was not. And the term servant leader has come up several times, and it certainly sounds very appropriate for Trooper Aaron Smith.
And we've been talking about him as a trooper, as a staff sergeant. He also was a husband, a son, a wife, a friend, an uncle, and was a member of Emmanuel Church, the Greenwood campus, where he strongly identified as a Christian and shared his Christian faith with his wife, Megan, in the children's ministry. They also liked to work out together, and they were described as a dynamic duo. And if you know anything about that CrossFit community, they are intense, and they were part of the CrossFit community in Bargersville. The CGX CrossFit has them as proud members of their community. And then outside of working out and working, well, he liked to cook. He liked to make a good brisket. He loved to fly drones. We've seen pictures of him hunting and being out in nature and spending time with family and friends who, by all accounts, adored him, looked up to him, and respected him. He seemed to be the one who was committed to making sure he was doing what was right.
All described him as a servant leader and just an extraordinary person, and gone far too soon, but again earned all of the honors that we saw earlier today and that we're seeing here in Crown Hill as well.
And so now they're awaiting the arrival of this man that they described as someone with a selfless spirit to go through the ceremony. There we see Emily real quick as she's looking for that caisson to arrive. And boy, they've got to be hot out there in that sun right now. We did see the flags had a little bit of a breeze to it, but those uniforms are not
no, they're not
ideal.
They're not made for comfort, but you're not thinking about that today. What you're thinking about is your purpose for being there. A couple interesting things about a caisson. Here we hear the bagpipes coming into view. But the caissons are actually used to bring ammunition. This tradition and history goes all the way back to the Civil War. They're used to bring ammunition to a battle site in the Civil War era, and then also used to remove injured, wounded, or those that had passed in battle. So that tradition actually carries forward now to this. There we see the flags with the Army flag right behind it as well. We'll also be seeing the riderless horse, probably right behind the bagpipes, with the boots in the stirrups that are faced backwards. That's another borrowed military tradition, where it symbolizes a general who's reviewing his troops as he is moving on, or as he has passed. It's a symbolic gesture. There's the start of that.
We have an officer in charge leading the way, and then what you're seeing here is a multi-jurisdictional color team followed. The pipe and drum band providing the music. The riderless horse is then followed by the caisson. You can get a view of that riderless horse. That's the horse with the saddle but no rider, that Gary was talking about, the stirrups on backward to represent a fallen comrade and hero, to represent one who will ride no more. So I want to say real credit to the crews that are out there trying to stay at a respectful distance and then capture the movement of the caisson up to the memorial. When it arrives there, the family may or may not greet the caisson, and that's what we're trying to determine here. It looks like there is a line of people that is now moving out of the crowd and moving forward. Tough day for this family. So you can see the officer there in charge leading the way. When they get to their destination, the officer will give a command of attention and present arms. Officers will give a salute. We can see Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb there with his wife. After delivering remarks at the funeral today, next to him is Indiana State Superintendent of Police Doug Carter on his left.
Officers! On guard! On guard! Oh! Officers! On guard! Parade! Press!
Thank you so much for joining us today as we lay to rest Aaron Smith. Before we begin, I wanted to say to the National Guard, the Indiana State Troopers, any law enforcement that has supported this family, on behalf of our church, truly thank you for all of the support that you have lent to Megan and the rest of her family. Watching the level of love and care over the course of the past week has been nothing short of inspiring. The work that you do is profound, it is meaningful, and just watching it and watching the way that you love and care is truly a humbling thing to witness. So thank you for all that you have done. To the Smith family, what I would say today is I know that it has been incredibly emotional. I know it's been taxing. I know it has been draining. But what I want you to know is that in the coming days and the coming weeks, the grief will hit you in different ways. But what I want you to know is that you are never alone. And I hope that what the past 2 days have shown you is that not only is God by your side every moment of every day, but this community, this state, your family, this church, whatever we can do to love and support, we will do. I will not re-preach any message that has been delivered today. The words that have already been shared have been beautiful and they have been meaningful and heartfelt. I think those stand on their own. What I would love to do in the next few moments are 3 things. The first is I would like for all of us to have a moment of silence together where we can honor the beautiful life of Trooper Aaron Smith. And then following that moment of silence, I would love to share a passage from Scripture. I would love to read Psalm 23, which I think offers us hope. I think it offers us encouragement, what we desperately need today. And then I would love for all of us, each and every single one of you that would like to join us, I would love to conclude in prayer today. So to begin, let us all engage and share in a moment of silence for Trooper Aaron Smith. Thank you. In Psalm 23, it says, "The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to his name. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. You prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. You honor me by anointing my head with oil. My cup overflows with blessings. Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever." Aaron Smith truly is living in the house of the Lord forever. And on a day like today, where it is difficult emotionally, you can take solace in that. Will you join me in prayer? God, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you and be still and silent in your presence. We thank you for the opportunity to clear any distractions from our minds so that we may focus on you and giving you glory and honor to your name. Father, you have blessed us with an incredible life. You have blessed us with Aaron Smith. You have blessed us with his service, with his love, with his sacrifice, with the steadfast care that he has shown not only to his family, but to this community, this state, and this country. His life surely was a blessing. You have given us an example to follow. The way that he lived, the way that he honored you, the way that he honored his community has inspired us all, and help us to take the lessons from his life and help us to live them out each and every single day on our respective journeys towards you. God, even on days when it's hard, even on days when we do not understand, we still choose to place our faith and our hope and our trust in you. God, you are good. We acknowledge your goodness each and every single day. And I pray that you will comfort Megan and the rest of the Smith family. I pray that you encourage these men and women in law enforcement and the military that are joining us today to let them know that they are loved and that they are valued and they are appreciated. God, we give you all the thanks and we give you all the glory. And we thank you for this incredible life that we lay to rest today. God, we love Aaron and we love you so much. It's in your name that we humbly pray, and we all said, Amen. Thank you.
Officers! Out of guard! Attention! Present! Up! Fire party! Head fire! 3 volleys! Officers! Out of guard! Order! Oh!
You're watching live coverage right now of the burial at Crown Hill of Indiana State Trooper Aaron Smith. The 33-year-old passed away last Wednesday, June 28th. The funeral services started this morning at 11 o'clock at Emmanuel Church in Greenwood, and when the large gathering of law enforcement officers arrived at the church this morning, they picked up a white carnation, and they've been wearing that. It's been tucked beneath each officer's badge. They've been wearing it hanging upside down, and now nearing 5 o'clock, as we are nearing the end of the services and ceremony for today, they are filing by the casket one by one, placing this carnation on the casket, the white representing a good life and a good career. Each of them have a red dot in the center, that red dot symbolizing the bloodshed for the officer's sacrifice. And this really is the final action of the services today that have been very well orchestrated. It's been warm, but have gone off pretty glitch-free. The flag presented there to the family, and Gary Woodruff is joining me. He is the Deputy Chief of the Lawrence Police Department, and he said there's a lot of inspection of that flag to make sure that it's folded properly. If it's not folded properly, they'll take it apart and refold it again before they present it to the family.
Right, yeah, it has to be done perfectly, and in this case they did. They usually do. They would have practiced that so often that they couldn't get it wrong. And it's just such an important moment that the family, receives the flag from the superintendent, and some final words from Superintendent Carter as well.
The playing of taps is always very emotional.
Sure.
And then hearing the 21 firings, and you said that there's a tradition for those spent casings now. You okay?
Yeah, yes, I am.
And it's emotional.
It should be.
It's tough. It's tough to watch, and yet some of these traditions that are put in place, like the distribution of these casings after the ceremony, are meant to be a sign of comfort for the family and
Right.
remembrance of a life well lived.
Right. Yeah. The 3 volleys that were fired, there are 21 spent casings that were, as a result of that, those will be collected and given to the family. And of course, the family can do what they want to with those as mementos or keepsakes or whatever they want to do with them. But yeah, it's all very meaningful, all done with very specific purpose, reverence to, in this case, Trooper Smith, and in reverence to his immediate family.
Pastor Cody Johnson, the one delivering remarks at the gravesite, as we can see there, the family, some of them sitting, we're shooting them from behind to give them a sense of privacy there as they watch people file by. He talked about Aaron Smith really leaving a legacy of strength, and that was the theme really of the eulogy that he delivered at his church this morning. But then today, when he finished his remarks, he says, I'm not going to duplicate things, but he did read Psalm 23, really a passage of peace and comfort for the family, that their loved one is now with God, that ends with, I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That
Yes.
has to really provide comfort for the family that was very demonstrated in their faith. We can see Governor Eric Holcomb walking there, and right behind him, the First Lady of Indiana, his wife Janet, filing past the casket there.
It's a difficult but reverent day for everyone involved, but again, the focus is entirely on Trooper Smith's family, and as it should be, and the extended family. It also gives the opportunity for the entire community to come together, to join in mourning, but also in supporting Trooper Smith, his family, and law enforcement in general.
It's been a long day. I know you have an eye to what goes on behind the scenes. After this, after the cameras leave, after the public leaves, after all the support leaves, What then for the family?
Yeah, then there are all kinds of support services that continue. You know, each family makes its decision as to what it gets involved with, but there are concerns of police survivors. There are all kinds of projects that are designed for that long-term support. He'll never be forgotten.
He was remembered today as someone who was committed to doing what is right. He was remembered as someone with a selfless spirit. If he was to be described in 3 words, his Uncle Tony says he's humble, he's a servant, and he's a hero. And hero may sound like a strong word to you, but when you hear the stories, when you hear the stories of the 2 lives he saved, when you hear the testimony of Jewel Green talking about he was not only there in the moment, but he followed up afterwards and kept a connection, that to her was the definition of a hero. So we're wrapping up our live coverage for you now of the burial at Crown Hill of Trooper Aaron Smith. We are going to bring you 13 News at 5 o'clock here at 5 o'clock and bring you some of the moments that you may have missed today, as well as other news making headlines here in Central Indiana. For Gary Woodruff, I'm Anne Marie Tiernan. Thank you so much for watching.